Go. Just
Okay,
start the conversation. All right.
cool, man. Hey, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into We Move New York. So thank you for taking a minute out today.
Okay, same here. Thanks for inviting me to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think probably one of the things that was such a momentous event for all of us in so many ways, especially in New York, was living through that pandemic. We're in a new year right now. How many waves of living through that pandemic has affected the way that you do work and live your life today?
So there are still people who continue to wear masks. A lot of employees to this day still wear masks. I would say there's maybe about five employees that I have not seen without a mask. And if they took the mask off, I wouldn't even recognize them. So people are still wearing masks in New York City, especially when you're dealing with the public. They still want to protect themselves. So since COVID, there are a lot of people still wearing masks just to protect themselves from maybe contracting whatever they're afraid of contracting.
So I love your story. I love what you're doing with We Move New York. So let me ask you this. If I put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, let's say third graders, it's career day, and one of the
Mhm.
kids in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I will tell them that I am a supervisor in New York City Transit, and I am responsible for all the buses that leave my depot and all the buses that come back. I would tell them this is a great career to have. There's plenty of opportunity for advancement, and you can provide a great life for yourself and your family.
What a crazy world, though. New York City public transit. I know we've been fed, especially here in Kansas City, and in other places, we've been fed this Hollywood interpretation, but you still see stories. I know I've been in New York enough. Man,
Mhm.
how did you get used to the whole like hectic way of how New York moves, even in the beginning?
So that may be overwhelming for someone that's visiting New York or someone that's moved a transplant into New York. But growing up in New York City and riding the public transportation system, it's just one of the things. And when you become an employee, you kind of already know what to expect, but there's are still some things that make you say, wow, there's some interactions that make you say, wow, I can't believe that just happened. There are some things that you say, I can't believe this happened as much as it does happen. There's been times when I come home from work and I tell my family members, hey, you won't believe what happened at work today. And they think it's just an outlandish story. Then by happenstance, they happen to be with me at work one day and they get to witness some of the craziness themselves. And then they say, I'll believe anything you tell me from this day going forward because they got to witness it for themselves.
So, talk to me about We Move New York. It's such a great story. You've been doing this for 3+ decades. Talk to me a little bit about what you're doing.
So I've been an employee in New York City Transit for the past 30 years, seven as a bus operator, the past 23 as a supervisor. And what I noticed is that what I like to do is promote positive images and positive aspects of public transportation employees because we get a bad rap across the board. No
Yep.
matter how well we do, it just it's like reading reviews on the internet. That one bad review
Yep.
just sours everything. So I wanted to try to change the narrative and promote positivity amongst public transportation employees, and in addition, bridge the gap between public transportation employees across regions. So I work in New York City, but I also interact with people that work in New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, Baltimore, and Atlanta.
So let me ask you this. When you were in the third grade, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was in the third grade, believe it or not, I wanted to be a brain surgeon. I don't know what prompted me, and maybe it was something I saw on television
Sure.
that prompted me to want to be a brain surgeon. But then going forward and speaking to still in elementary school, one of my teachers, and they said, you have to go to school for 12 years, right? I'm like, yeah, it's 12 years of school. He's like, no, 12 additional years outside of regular 12 years. That was like, I'll find something else to do. That was too much school for me. I already didn't like school in
Yeah,
elementary school. So I was like, nah, brain surgeon is out the question.
not going to happen. So take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were these seeds that were planted into you to not only be in public transportation, but to illuminate and show the positivity of what you're doing?
So I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. What brought me to New York City Transit, to be honest with you, is my mom. My mom is the one that applied for me to take because you have to take a test, right? It's a civil service job. You have to take a test. My mother was the one that applied for me. I went and I took the test and I got hired. After years and years of being on the job, one thing I noticed is that in New York City, we are one of the biggest agencies in New York City, but we get the bad rap out of all the agencies that are in New York City. One of the things that I noticed is that, for instance, like FDNY and NYPD, they have competitive events in the sports realm amongst each other and amongst other cities. And we didn't have anything like that. Not only did we not have anything like that, we, as far as I know, were never invited to participate in any of those types of competitions. So that's where the We Move New York Invitational was born, out of the absence of us being invited to participate in those type of events. So I wanted to build something for us public transportation employees, not only in New York City, but also in other cities also.
My dad was born in Brooklyn back in
Okay.
'55, and he told me the early stories about when the Dodgers left and all of that. I remember all of those early stories. I still can't believe that there's not a baseball team that's branched out of Brooklyn. I mean, it would be jubilant if they had a baseball team.
So that's even before my time. So,
Yeah,
in growing up in Brooklyn, the closest stadium was Shea Stadium, where the Mets play is now called
yeah,
Citi Field. So you were either a Mets fan or a Yankee fan. But Brooklyn is close to Queens, so a lot of Brooklynites are Mets fans. But
okay,
as I got older and moved in a different part of the city, closer to Yankee Stadium, then you become a Yankees fan. So it
gotcha.
kind of depends on the region of New York City where you live.
Yeah, I was a Mets fan. I remember when the '86 Mets won, because my dad grew up in Long Island too. He was up in
Okay.
Massapequa. So I had family up there, so my allegiance, but I remember all those cats, Doc and Daryl and that whole group, and when they won that series like
Yeah, I
crazy.
remember.
Yeah,
I remember cutting out of high school to go to that ticket tape parade. Like the schools were empty. Like we
yeah.
all went to homeroom, and after said we're going to Manhattan, we're going to go see this parade.
Man, I'll talk to people about if they could get into a time machine and go back and see one sporting event. For me, it would be Game 6 when that ball went underneath Buckner's legs. To feel Shea Stadium just explode, that would have been
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, that was the highlight. I think that's still the best highlight in Mets history to
Yeah,
this day.
yeah, it's crazy. So let me ask you this. Who has been that hero for you in your life with the work that you're doing, and more specifically with you coming up with the concept of We Move New York, taking a leadership role, speaking up for a large group of people? Well, who has been that inspiration for you to do this?
So I couldn't exactly pinpoint one person, but I would say this: I came on the job really young. I was 22. I was a kid. If you asked me then, I would tell you I was a grown man. But looking back, now at the age I am now, I was definitely a kid. And I was working with a lot of people that were old enough to be my mother or father. So like how some people have work husbands or work wives, I definitely had work mothers and work fathers that guided me along the path to success in the company and keep me on the right track and to stay out of trouble. Because now, as an older gentleman on the job, I see a lot of the youngsters that come on, and a lot of them sometimes need someone to pull them to the side and say, "Hey, listen, you're not doing the right thing. This is what you want to do. This is what you should be doing. If you're going to stay here, and you're going to have success at the company." So to pinpoint or to say one person that was intricate in it, it's just too many to actually name.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You're along your trajectory of doing this for 3+ decades. Was there a moment, was there a year, was there a time where you knew this was the right place for you and that it made you grow into the role and then eventually get to a point where you made We Move New York? Was there ever moments like that or a time period for you?
Yeah, I would say maybe around my 15th year on the job when I was like, you know something? Because you don't, a lot of people think when you come on the job that you have to do 25 years and stay. No, a lot of people come on the job and they leave. I had aspirations of leaving after maybe 10, 15 years, but at my 15th year, I think I found my groove, I found my place, and a lot of the work that you're able to pick comes by with seniority. And my seniority was in a place where I could get something where I was pretty comfortable. And that's when I locked in. I said, okay, I found my groove, I found my spot. I'm going to stay put and I'm going to finish out my career here.
So I'm curious, what are your memories of 9/11? What were you doing that day?
9/11, I happened to be on vacation that day.
Wow.
Luckily enough, I was new as a supervisor, so I made supervisor in July of 2001. So 9/11 was September, a few months later.
Yeah.
As a supervisor, I don't think I would have been of much of any help if I had been in the city because I was very new and wasn't. didn't really understand what the procedures would have been. So luckily and fortunately for me, I was home and able to just view everything on television. However, had someone called and said, "Hey, we need extra manpower to come in to organize whatever," I probably would have came in just to get my foot in the door and see how things really get when it gets bad. And quite honestly, we haven't had a situation in New York City that has been as bad as 9/11.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What has been the motivation for you every day to not only, to not only be a part of the transportation world, but to also create We Move New York and to evolve as a human being and to feel the energy and the gusto to do this? What's been that daily motivation for you?
So my daily motivation is the people that I work with. A lot of people cannot say that they have a job that they love. A lot of people cannot say that they work with a group of people that they love. I love the daily interactions that I have with the people that I supervise. I interact with over 150 people on a daily basis, and that's between the hours of 6 and 9:30. And when they come into work, I like to, try to cheer them up or ask them what's going on. Hey, how's the family? How's the kids? And give them a little boost of energy before they go out the door. Because once you go out the door, you're dealing with the public, and sometimes you could be having a great day, and it'll just take one person just to bring your spirits down to zero.
So the one thing about New York is it's the epicenter of everything. I come from jazz radio. That's where all the cats are. That's the best
Right.
scene.
Mm.
The best of everything finds its way to New York, and you've been there for decades, and you've watched this town change. What has been the best parts of the evolution of New York from the early days of your life to right now in 2025?
So there's New York has changed, but it hasn't changed. I like to say I love New York City for all the things it offers, and I hate New York City for all the things that it offers. It depends on what you want to take in. So New York City has changed. There's more skyscrapers being built to this day. They're still building, and sometimes I say that at some point they're going to run out of space, but
Yeah.
you cannot run out of space going up. So they're getting bigger and they're getting better, and it's getting more expensive. The biggest change, like right now, would be the congestion pricing. That's something new, not only
Oh
to the United
yeah.
States, but it's new in New York City. So that's one of the biggest. I don't know if you want to call it a challenge. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But that's one of the biggest changes in New York City right now. And my mother lives in the congestion zone, so I'm affected by it. If I want to go see my mom, I now have to pay a $9 toll to go see my mom. Whereas for the past 10, 15 years, it would just shoot through the tunnel, say hi to mom, and that's it. Now it's going to cost a few bucks.
Wow, that's crazy. So let me ask you this. If you have a dream tonight and you run into that version of you right before your first day on the job, and you can give that version of you a piece of advice based on this 30 years that you've experienced and all the wisdom you've experienced along the way, what advice would you give that young self of you?
Invest your money, start investing your money early.
Yeah.
Yeah, start investing your money early. Like again, like I said, when I came on the job, I was really young. No one told me anything about money management. No one gave me any advice on financial literacy. So that's one of the things that I also do with new employees, especially the younger cats. I'm like, listen, you have a lot of time. Start investing your money now. By the time you're my age, you'd be on easy street. So if I could go back and tell myself anything, it'd be that one thing: start investing your money now.
So, of everything that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Say again.
What are you ultimately the proudest of everything that you've accomplished in your life?
What am I the proudest of? So I would say this in reference to my job. I'm the proudest of having the reputation that I have. I tell everybody when you come on the job, your reputation is everything. If you come on the job and you start screwing up, you're gonna have a reputation throughout your entire career. No matter how much you try to fix it, you're gonna be known as a screw up. One of the things I'm proudest of on the job is not being known as a screw up. I'm a straight shooter. I'm fair as a supervisor. I don't write people up if I don't have to. I really write people up. I find that just talking to a person usually straightens out the behavior or anything that needs correction. So with that, like my daughter, she says I have 1,000 uncles and aunts because when she's in Manhattan, she knows she can step on any bus and be treated fairly because I'm her dad.
Yeah. So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
The best advice I've ever gotten: invest, start investing
Right.
your money.
That's it.
Invest your money in the stocks that pay dividends. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. The market goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But over time it's mostly up more than it's down.
So, I went up and saw family back in the late 90s and saw New York City before the towers came down and just felt the city. And there's all these landmarks and a lot going on. You see that all the time. But
Hmm.
what has been consistently one of your favorite places in New York City?
One of my favorite places in New York City, I have to say Times Square. As a kid, in my teens, Times Square was a place that your parents told you not to go, but you went anyway. It was a very seedy place, but you still did each other to go to Times Square. You would catch two movies for a few bucks, take a couple of photos. Over time, Times Square has changed. Some people call it Disneyland now because Disney used to have a store in Times Square. They don't anymore, but we still sometimes call it Disneyland.
Yeah.
Times Square, regardless of the time of day, is as crowded at 12 midnight as it is at 12 in the afternoon.
Wow.
So one of my favorite places to go, and you could just sit on the steps and just observe the street performers is Times Square. Like if any time someone from out of town is coming to visit, Times Square is one of the first places that I'll take them.
I interviewed a musician. I really ramped up interviews that I did with jazz musicians during that time. And New York was especially stark. And I remember talking to someone in like June or July. It was a rainy day. And he was telling me how he was looking over Times Square and it was totally empty. And it freaked me out. I was like, wait, wait, wait. He was like, there's no one in Times Square right now. That had to be weird to be living in New York during that time.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I walked through Times Square, and to see Times Square as empty as it was, it felt post-apocalyptic. Like I kind of felt like at any time a group of bandits were going to come out
I
and rob me. I've never experienced anything like that before. It was very, very eerie.
It felt like who was that? Rod Serling from Twilight Zone. Like he was just going to walk up the middle of the street and say, "Welcome to the show. We
Right,
have New York City in 2021 or whatever."
right.
And yeah. So at the end of the day, what's going on with We Move New York? I know you talked about being involved with sports and different initiatives. What are you doing now with the new year here in 2025? What's on your radar?
So right now, we moved to New York. Right now, I'm just increasing my social presence on social media as I ramp up to this year will be, I believe, the fourth We Move New York Invitational. I have a lot of other transportation companies throughout the region reaching out to me to participate. I'm trying to get the best group of people I can together to participate. So the We Move New York Invitational is a public transportation employee themed sporting event, whereas we have teams play basketball, softball. I expanded to soccer and flag football. So as I expand, there's room for more there's more room for more companies to participate. However, it's a 1 day event and I can only get so much done in 1 day. So this year is going to be bigger and better, and I'm looking forward to having more people participate.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, everyone that knows you in your different capacities. But what's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I just think I'm just I think I'm just a cool dude. Like a lot of stuff doesn't shake me. I'm unfazed by a lot. It could be the New York in me, it could be the Brooklyn in me, where things just roll off my back. Like it's not that serious until it becomes serious, and that's when you take it serious.
So I got to know, being a native New Yorker, how bad was that whole thing that Soto did going from the Yankees to the Mets?
I really don't follow sports
Okay,
at
all right,
all.
then
I'm the worst person for you to ask that
gotcha.
question.
I'm curious. I just knew that was a big deal in the off season. So hey, man,
Mhm.
if anyone out there wants to get involved with We Move New York, they want to reach out to you, learn more, any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
You can follow me on all social media at WeMoveNewYork.com. I have a merchandise store. No, I'm sorry. You can follow me on all social media at We Move New York. I have a merchandise store, WeMoveNewYork.com. I make custom apparel, mostly geared towards transportation employees. However, I still do things for people that are just looking to have some garments made.
Man, what a great story. Thank you so much, man. This is the kind of thing when it comes to like citizen journalism and just like really celebrating what we're doing. It's like you've taken the initiative to illuminate a group of human beings that tend to get knocked down when they shouldn't be. So this is such a great story. It's a great movement that you've created. So thank you for taking a minute out to talk about it today.
And thank you for having me on the show.
Yes.